What are the 3 things you've got to do this and get it right? Okay, the first thing, it's about positioning in a niche defined by customer experience. In other words, it's got nothing to do with the product. So when you position your business, which has a big impact on how you value a business, what I'm looking for is who is your customer. I'm really not bothered about the product you've got. Because I promise you, the product that you've got, I will find elsewhere. But if you understand a group of customers really well, and you service them to a point where they think you are the be-all and end-all of everything, it's very hard for me to take that away from you. So 13 years ago, a man by the name of Evan came to see me. And he says, well, we've got a problem. I said, what's the problem? He says, you know, for the last 5 years, we have been between 20 and 25 million rand. We cannot get this business to move beyond that. There's something clearly wrong here. So I said, okay, well, what do you do, Evan? He says, I'm a baker. The next thing I do is he says, I own the rights to McAdams in South Africa. Now, McAdams is a Dutch brand. They make the best baking systems. And he said, I bring the product in, I store it, I service, sell, and maintain it. And then, he says to me, I also have gone and innovated a concept. And nowadays, when we look around, we see the Doppio Zeros, the Furnos, and all these other brands that have combined the idea of a bakery with a coffee shop. Evan had 4 of those up and running 13 years ago. He was one of the first people to innovate that concept, that you should join those 2 together to create a retail experience. He said, and then the final thing I do is I supply 3 hotel groups with their continental breakfast every morning and their confectionery for high tea in the afternoon. We asked Evan to focus on doing one thing, just one thing. Whichever one of those 4 businesses it was, select one. On the 31st of December, 2012, Evan broke a different turnover level. His business just cracked 700 million rand. He does one thing only, into one customer group exclusively. Evan decided he was going to focus on the hotel groups. He identified their problem. Their problem was they needed fresh breakfast and fresh confectionery. They did not want to buy an entire bakery. He took what they required, he identified the list, he himself baked it, froze it, then gave it to them, and they then put it in a prover to create the fresh baked goods. And of a day, he met someone who ran a spa. And he discovered in a conversation that this guy's biggest issue was his bake category. Evan very quickly figured out that he could take the 150 square meters, reduce it to 30 square meters, put a walk-in freezer, create the baked goods that the spa needed, place them in the freezer, put in a prover, and at 6:45 in the morning, put the frozen product into the prover, and at 7 o'clock on the shelves, fresh baked goods. Every single retailer today uses that product. And he understands them intimately, because it's got nothing to do with how smart you are or how hard you work. But it's got everything to do with your purpose, asset of value, and then how you go about selecting what it is that you want to build your business into. So the first element of an asset of value is that you've got to position your business within a very clearly defined group of people with similar characteristics, and you're going to get to know them well. Next, once you've done that, you've got to develop this thing called a system of delivery. So let's go back to the story of Clive. The eventual conclusion was that Clive was the business. In other words, without Clive being there, there was no business to be had at all. So what is a system of delivery? If you employ the right people to do the right thing at the right time, at the right price. As the entrepreneur, I have built the system that drives my business. And I'm employing somebody to operate that system. But in effect, what you're looking to do is find people to run the systems that drive the operations of your business. Had Clive done that, would it be fair to say that Clive is not the business? In fact, the systems that drive Clive's business is the business. And if I bought Clive's business and tomorrow he was hit by a bus, do I still have an asset that can do what it used to do? Without a doubt. So a system of delivery is crucial if you're building an asset of value. It's the one area that I'm going to look first and foremost at to see if I can get your business for next to nothing. The last point is that the true job of us as entrepreneurs, if our purpose is to build an asset of value, our job has to lead the creation of value in our businesses. So Andrea is a very interesting character. This woman had a natural gift to cook and present food. And she went into catering. Her first gig that she did is she got 10 people, made them a nice filet, set the whole scene up. They loved it, and she lost money. The second gig she got was for about 17, 18 people, made them a superb meal. They loved it, and she lost even more money. But she was smart, and she applied herself. So she decided to position her business into larger events. Today, she only does events of 150 to 500 people. And there are reasons for that. Her segment is very well defined. She then went and created a system of delivery against a whole series of menu options. Today, she sells them in the kitchen. But consistently, the menu option you buy is operationalized onto the table of that event. She eventually then found herself in a precarious position. She was spending about 50% of her time out of the business. She had time on her hands. The job of the entrepreneur, when you've got time on your hands, is to identify your next level of growth. In the case of Evan, he moved from hotels into the retailers. In the case of Andrea, she realized something interesting. She said, look, I'm in Cape Town. It's the world of the foodie. Everyone there loves food. Specifically, organic is becoming a big trend. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a supply chain from my small producers, who I'm already buying from, directly to the front door of people who want to purchase goods organically, directly from me. They no longer want to take irradiated goods from supermarkets or hormone beef or whatever the case might be. So she set this business up on the internet. She created an online shopping site. In the beginning, she battled, took time to learn the business, to get the hang of it. But hey, she had time on her hands. The catering business was working well. Every system she had in place that was important was measurable. And at the end of the month, for 2-3 days, she would sit down and look through the stats and make sure everything remained on track. Eventually, the online business started to work. It found a market. She identified her positioning. She then developed her system of delivery. She then found the right people to be employed in that business to do what needed to be done. And then she landed up with a problem. She had 50% of time on her hands again. So let's look at these three things: positioning, system of delivery, and time on your hands.